Greetings and welcome to the Superb Diamond Range Show. This is your host Superb, broadcasting from Edinburgh. Today's date's the 15th of April 2015, and today I'll be discussing buying locally. I've always felt it's very important to buy local and try to strengthen my immediate community around me. No matter where I've lived, I've always kind of opted for local farms as opposed to big supermarkets or convenience stores as you have now. Obviously there are many around the UK. You've got your Sainsbury's local, you've got your Tesco Metro, these convenience stores located on pretty much every street corner, and they're very convenient, as they say, but they're also very expensive, and the products that they provide aren't the best, to be quite honest. They're not really very organic or fresh. So to me, I've always tried to go out of my way to try to find fruit and veg from a farm. Again, you'd have a much better experience going down and sort of meeting the farmer and getting straight to source, to be honest, and exchanging the energy with the person that's kind of gone to the effort and work, rather than a sort of middleman like Tesco or Asda, to name a few. To me, the supermarkets are kind of like gatekeepers as well, because they're so big and they give you this illusion of choice in their stores, particularly the products they sell on the shelves, in that you get one company will market itself as a different brand, but it might actually be the same. I remember being talked to somebody one time about Lidl, and they had loads of soup there that was going under a different name, and according to this manager of this store, he mentioned to me that he believed that Heinz was kind of behind all of these soups that were on sale, so it was just another name for them. But if the price difference was quite major as well, so a lot of people have a lot of brand loyalty, so they'll say, oh, I must get Heinz, it costs £2 more, but it's quality, or it's traditional, or whatever. And of course the one that looks cheap is actually made by Heinz, probably tastes the same, but you've never tried it, so you'll never find out. I understand in America, Walmart, which is a massive company, obviously, and in the UK they we have Asda, which is part of the Walmart group, but they say that one of every $4 spent by Americans goes to Walmart, and apparently this is growing rapidly. For me, it's important to sort of change habits. There's a lot of things that are very easy to do, one of them being to shop in a big supermarket. And I can understand as well, because it is convenient, I guess, because they're everywhere. Like, most people might live next door to one. And a farmer's market, particularly if you live in a city, might not be the easiest place to get to, and might involve travel and time. But the main thing is that it's not going to cost you as much when you do get there. You're going to get much fresher fruit and veg. It's probably going to last a lot longer than what it would have if you'd have bought it from the supermarket, which packaged their food. And to be honest, part of the packaging, I believe, affects how long it can last. And another thing that I was advised, in particular when it comes to fruit, is the fruit that you're eating, depending on the country you're in. So I'm going to use apples as an example, because I believe that apples can grow here. But if you can find locally grown apples in the country you're in that are known for growing that's the kind of fruit you should be eating, because that's going to be the best you can get. Again, I'm not trying to say you shouldn't eat exotic tropical fruits when you get the chance, but always remember that things like bananas and coconuts, they've traveled a really, really long way from where they originated. And to actually survive that journey, there's a good chance they have to pump them full of chemicals to keep them from going bad. So it's always good if you can find things like raspberries, apples, things that can grow on the land that you live on. And obviously if you lived in a hot country, then you could smash all the bananas and mangoes that you want, because that they're grown there and they haven't traveled. I mean, one of the things I always found very interesting was there's a lot of things that get exported to each country. Things like apples, again, something that can be grown locally, but they prefer to buy it from another country in Europe, maybe Ireland or even possibly South America. They could ship apples in from South America. And I always wondered, like, why would they would do that? And obviously it's probably cheaper for them to do that, and easier. And of course, when you do get the apple, it's traveled so far, it's probably got chemicals in it, so it's probably not as fresh as it could be, and therefore you're not getting the real goodness from it. Another advice I'd give people is to, little off topic, but would be to eat the core of the apple, not to throw it away. That's really good for you. But anyway, diverging a bit. In terms of buying local, I mean, another example I can give is like banks. Banks are massive now, and there are huge banks that you see everywhere. And in the same way that you'd buy locally, I'd recommend that you could try to find a local bank or a credit union, would be even better, rather than going for the big one, because there's this myth that bigger is better. And the truth, as we know, is that big banks are not better. And you hear sayings like too big to fail, and if it's bigger, it'll be more efficient. But it's not always the case. I actually find that the smaller something is, the more easier it is to be efficient, because there's less bureaucracy, there's less people involved. Maybe the few people that are there can really get on and do things right, and there's not so much, there's more focus there. But if it gets too big, sometimes you can lose focus. I talk a lot about sort of buying locally within the community. I remember watching a few videos that was by some Americans, and they were talking about the local community and the small businesses all being kind of run by foreigners, whether it be Chinese or Asians or Arabs. And the guy who was like a Nubian guy, he basically said that we need to kind of support our own people, our own community, if we want to improve, and we shouldn't keep giving our money to the other foreigners. And I kind of did understand where he was going with it, but to me, I feel that my community can be anyone, as long as they're willing to contribute to the overall betterment of the community, and not they're sort of really want to are willing to be nice and offer goods and services. I mean, I have no problem at all, and to me, I don't feel like, I made a comment to a cousin of mine that if I was to support only Irish, what do you think of that? And I remember he said to me that the pub O'Brien's would make all the money then, because you just look at how many Irish owned businesses there are, and a lot of them are pubs, so all your money would be going into the pubs. So and he sort of mentioned he felt that if there's a local restaurant or a local shop that is really good, and there's a nice vibe there, people are friendly, then obviously he would be happy to fund them or support them, because not only would he be getting a good product, but also a good service. And I've been saying this quite a lot, that again, going back to big companies, you've got places like Amazon. Obviously they're doing things really cheap, they post it out to you really fast, but they don't really talk to you about what they're selling. Obviously it's all online, so there's not going to be a salesperson, but if you go to a shop and you buy something, whether it be a piece of technology or even a book or a CD, sometimes the people in the store might have knowledge about it, might be able to give you their opinion. They might like what you're about to purchase, and they can, give you some views on it, and that can, help you with your decision. Whereas when you go on Amazon or another online company, sometimes it's very cold. You kind of, it's quite good in the way that you can get people that have bought it previously reviewing it. That side of it's quite good, but it's hard to beat a professional person with good customer service that will know more about it and will be able to tell you all that you need to know and make you feel good about your purchase as well, because that's another thing. 'Cause sometimes you buy things and you regret it and you feel bad afterwards. And one example of that could be, you might go to the shop and you might buy a few chocolate bars and you feel really good initially while you're eating it, and then later on you feel really bad. And in the same way that you might do an impulse spend, so you might buy some clothes that you really feel like buying at that time, but then of course when you buy them, you kind of like, oh, I don't really like this, or I don't really want this, I don't know quite why I bought it. Like another cousin of mine many years ago, I remember mentioning to him that there were some websites that were UK based that he could buy things from that were selling things much cheaper. And he kind of told me that he was living in Ireland at the time and they were having a lot of problems, supposedly in terms of being bankrupt and problems in the economy. And I remember he actually mentioned to me that he didn't really want to spend his money, give his money to the UK, that he felt it was better to buy in Ireland or buy, locally, because he wanted to see his country improve. And whether it would actually have helped or not, but the main thing is the intention was there, that he wanted his country to thrive again. But to me, it's about the immediate people within your community, because it all kind of filters in from the really the immediate. I mean, there's not a lot you can do at the global level in terms of the way that things are set up, but you can start making small steps locally, things that we can change and things that we can do. And not just myself and you, but other people we know that are close to us and that live within our community. We can talk to them about it and tell them, oh, have you tried this farmer's market? Have you tried this local record shop that sells really good records secondhand? And the people in there are really knowledgeable and really friendly. Would you not consider going in there rather than going to shop online? And the other thing, when you compare like the small farms, it's much better for the environment because there's not necessarily the mass industrialization of it. So it's not only are you supporting people locally, but you're actually doing your part for the environment. So things are much better all round. And you're not making things that are already bigger. You're kind of you're reducing them, to be honest, because all they want is everyone's money. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to this guy over here because I know this guy and he's in front of me. Whereas you're, I don't know you. I've never met you, and I don't understand why I used to give you money, but now I've decided that, I don't need to anymore. And therefore I can just do what I like in terms of supporting, the local town. And, it goes, you got things like hairdressers as well. There's people locally that can cut hair, might have experience as a hairdresser, and, rather than going to a chain salon or whatever, you could, pay some money to them, go to their house, maybe you could have a coffee and they could cut your hair. And again, you have a good experience. And I remember hearing a thing about in Brixton in London that they did this thing where people were invited to each other's houses, and, whoever's house it was, they would cook a meal for them. And when they cooked the meal, they basically if they liked it, they could choose how much they thought the meal was worth, and then they would obviously pay them for it. And I thought it was a brilliant idea to get people out of necessarily going to full-on licensed restaurants and, bringing people into each other's houses, could be complete strangers. But the great thing about it was that you got to meet people and you got to know people. And that's another part of it that I was going to mention. With online shopping, it's pretty easy not to leave your front door. More or less, you can order everything you need online, and it can happen within a few clicks of a button. And you're not really getting out and interacting with your local community. You don't really understand what people are thinking or feeling. And again, going out there, buying things from them, talking to them, referring other people to them, it's really good. And ultimately, it's going to be just great for the whole community. And it's, and it basically things like, I remember there was a road that I used to live near, and there was rumours that they were going to build a Sainsbury's local. And obviously the small businesses were worried that it was going to damage their businesses, and a lot of people got together and didn't want it to happen. So they kind of I think eventually it did come in. And I even had another friend that he bought a shop in North London, border with East London, and again, there was another Sainsbury's local that was built very near to where his shop was. Plus, there was 2 established shops that had been there for years that were kind of nearby as well. So it was almost like he kind of was just a bit unlucky, to be honest, that, that kind of happened. And again, it's like you could walk into that shop and you'll probably end up, to get some milk, you're probably looking at, I don't even know now, but probably £1.50 for a 2 litre. And of course you could go into the Sainsbury's local and on a good day and get 2 litres for £2, or even a 2 litre for £1. And that's kind of what you're competing with. And there's a lot of people that will kind of be of the point that, well, we haven't really got very much, and if they're doing it for 50p more and I could save 50p, then surely I would go with the big guys. And in a way, I can kind of see your point, and I understand you only have so much, but at least try in other ways to kind of support them. So, if you're not ready to make the full transition, do it slowly and see if it's manageable, and obviously ask yourself if you really need what you think you need, because sometimes we buy things that we don't need, and it's always good to kind of question our what we buy before we buy it. Ultimately, I just think we got to get out there and meet our local community, get to know each other, support each other, and even yourself. You might want to one day start a business within your community. So if you get out there, get to know people, and all of a sudden you can be like, okay guys, well, I've been shopping with you guys for a long time now, and now I've decided that I want to start a business. Can you refer people that towards my business, and I'll do the same for you. And everyone can kind of do quite well out of it. And I'm pretty sure that they would be happy to do that. And what I've noticed as well when I've gone to farmers market is you get a good conversation out of them, and you don't really get that when you go to places like Tesco's, because sometimes you go in there, it's like they put the wall down. I guess it depends where you live, which part, but sometimes like you get customers that probably aren't very friendly, and that makes the kind of staff themselves put up a bit of a wall against every customer, expecting everyone's going to be rude. So they kind of, it's not so much that they be rude to them, but I think it's more a case of they kind of like, they think that it's okay to not think that someone could be nice, because so many people have been bad, and they believe that to defend themselves they have to put up a wall against everybody. But as we all know, everyone's individual and unique, and there's not everyone's going to be the same, and for every bad customer you get, there'll be plenty of good ones that will come through. And I think it's a case of they should treat everyone equal. And again, I'm asking quite a lot, because there's another reason why employees of the big supermarkets sometimes aren't so friendly. And one reason could be that they're probably not paid as well as they should be, considering how much profit their company is making, and also the amount of work that they're given for the amount they're paid, because sometimes they work really hard and they don't really get the respect or the reward. Sometimes there's companies where the managers might even forget to thank their staff or to treat them once in a while. Like, I don't know if they have a morning meeting, maybe give them a coffee or something to kind of lift them a bit. And I think this is very, very important, obviously. And again, I just want to go into like a little bit about cafes. I've gone to like big cafes owned by big companies, and when you compare the small ones, again, the vibe and the atmosphere is completely different. People are much friendlier in the smaller cafes. They make good conversation. They put their heart and soul into the food, whereas the bigger companies usually charge quite a lot and they don't really give you much, and the quality is not quite there. It's almost as if they won't even give you anything real. They'll just, give you something that's just frozen. And to me, the smaller ones, they greet you with a smile. They're very friendly. If you need anything like directions, they'll probably give it to you and go over and beyond, to be honest, for you. And to me, that is the difference. It's like, what kind of experience do you want? For me, the ultimate experience is local. I admit that it can sometimes be more expensive, but not in all cases. Again, just want to reiterate about the farmers market, as I was talking about earlier. Again, it's a lot cheaper, and not only is it cheaper, but the food stays fresher for longer. You're going straight to source. There's no middleman. There's no spread being made. It is as good as it's going to get. And to me, I think we all need to, just have a little look round. And, you'd be surprised as well what you find locally, because there might be places that you didn't know existed. I'm just going to give one final example of something that happened. When I first sort of moved to Edinburgh, there was a time when I didn't have a printer, and I just went to a photocopying printer place. And again, just going there, it was a simple job that I needed something, a couple of sheets printed, and just going there, having the experience I had, had really friendly people. Anything, it sort of said to me, anything else you need, or we can sort of, help you with. Really, really friendly, and the service was just amazing that they gave. They not only did they print out what I needed, but they, didn't sort of make me. I could have printed more pages than I needed to, but they spaced it up in a way that, I ended up printing less pieces of paper, but they also put it into a plastic kind of sheet folder type thing, and the quality of the paper that they were using was really good. It was much better quality than what I had at home, so it just felt really like money well spent. Most people would have said, oh well, that I could have done it for this or that, but to me it was like, yep, this is a good local place, I'll go and use it again, I'll recommend people. And to me that's what it's all about. It's about the experiences, and ultimately people, you can have negative experiences as well, and I definitely believe that if you feel it's too negative and you don't want to go there, and you think that people are rude or the food is bad, then of course you don't have to go there. That's but the important thing is to at least give it a try and see if it works out. Okay, so that's it for this episode. So thank you very much for listening. The email address to contact me on is superbdiamondrange@gmail.com. The website is superbdiamondrange.com. I'm also on Twitter. Twitter address is @superbdiamondra or superbdiamondra. Thank you very much for listening. Peace out.